o'clock. It's time for Tony and Chelsea Live.
Hello, everyone. Today, we're going to be looking at your travel and landscape photos, and we have special guest TREY RATCLIFF with us. Hey, TREY. All the way from New Zealand.
How are you guys doing today?
We're doing all right. It's a beautiful night, a perfect night for reviewing photos, I think. TREY, he's going to be helping us review our photos. Sit tight for 1 second, TREY, because we just have to tell people that next week is wildlife photos with Moose Peterson, and he's going to be a day early. It's going to be on a Wednesday because he's in the middle of traveling right now. Do you want to get into reviewing photos?
Let's thank our sponsor, Squarespace.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
You're better at that than me.
This show is made possible by Squarespace. Whether you need a domain, website, or online store, make your next move with Squarespace. They have beautiful award-winning templates. If you can drag and drop, you can make your own Squarespace website. And if you'd like to start a free trial today, go to squarespace.com/Tony and enter the offer code
Portfolio
for 10% off. Thanks, Squarespace.
And if you currently have a Squarespace portfolio, head to sdp.io/link and we will take a look at somebody's portfolio live in the middle of the show. Let's look at some pictures. Here's the first one from Francis Chang. What do you think, TREY?
I think it's a nice photo. By the way, before I give any any critiques, I should let people know it's just an opinion. Take it for what it's worth. Just sort of random thoughts. I have unusual approaches to photos, and sometimes, and I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings if I say anything negative, but I will. I'm full of truth, so I will say just kind of what pops into my head. As for this photo, it's a fine photo. In a lot of ways, it's not original because you see a lot of people do this kind of photo in Grand Central Station. So, and I think a lot of like photographers do this. They kind of like collect stuff. They collect photos like roadside bingo. They need to like tick that box. And so since we've seen this photo a lot of times, I think a lot of people like, oh, I should also go take that same photo.
Yeah.
And so like at the conceptual stage, it's not original right now. That's not saying you have to be original all the time, but I think it can be like a practice kind of thing, right? Because as you go practice these things and try to recreate other photos that you've seen, you can learn a lot. But I don't want people to get like stuck in this crutch of going to collect these photos, like the Yosemite photo. And, people just go collect these photos and they think that makes them real photographers. I think that this is just a practice, like practice doing, this is a good mixed exposure thing. Obviously someone's standing still, there's lots of other people moving around, and that's a good skill to learn. But then really take this skill and do something that no one else has ever done before.
I completely agree with you, and we've said that before. He now has a tool in his tool belt, and that's a long exposure with people moving, and now put it somewhere unique or put your own spin on it, right?
Right.
But I think he did a good job recreating that type of photo. This one's titled...
I might see a little bit more space between the bottom of his feet and the bottom of the photo. I feel like they're kind of mashed in there together.
Yeah, it's probably a little tight, right?
Would be good. That's a minor comment on that photo, though.
Okay, let's move on. This one from Andre in Indonesia. I love the tonality of this. What do you think, TREY?
I think it's great. I think this is a very smart photo. I've always wanted to go to this place. I never have been. I remember seeing this in it was in Baraka or Samsara, or one of those really cool, cinematic movies.
Yeah.
I think I really like the white smoke. I think that, like you said, Tony, the tonality is there, very nice. The sky seems a little fakey color. I don't find the sky color to be so believable, but it's still nice.
Yeah.
And my only other minor complaint is that on the bottom right, see how there's those kind of chunky trees down there?
Yeah.
It doesn't feel balanced, right? It feels like there's a lot of stuff over there in the lower right, and there's not something balanced over on the left side. So it might be if I were working on the photo, I would just erase all those trees. A lot of times I don't add stuff to my photos, but I remove stuff. I'm kind of more of a reductionist, so I just get rid of stuff. So that's the only part that feels unbalanced, because everything else is quite symmetrical.
Yeah, I agree with you. And also I think the only black point is in these trees, which makes it just really heavy compared to the rest of the photo.
Good feedback. And I chose both these for our first set of photos because they're the same spot, just coincidentally, totally different photographers. But I thought it was interesting how we had two such different takes. though I think maybe we see the same trees in the foreground there.
Those trees.
Yeah, the trees look a little bit better here, just I think because of the lighting. And I see what the photographer is going for here to try to get like a cool night long exposure, but there's just not quite enough stars. Like if you're gonna do like a night photo, like get some serious stars, make it really inky, very contrasty. And there are, not that I'm a big fan of like replacing skies or adding stars or whatever, but you can use a few tools like add a bunch more stars up there, make it much more Milky Way-ish. As long as you're already kind of changing reality in a way by getting these really long exposures. So it's a little bit of a slippery slope. You can also change reality by adding more stuff in Photoshop.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting way to alter the composition. I wanted to remind people that they should check out your work at stuckincustoms.com. And you have tutorials there as well. Do you teach any of this kind of stuff? The post-processing?
We have all kinds of tutorials. We just released two new ones. One is like for total beginners. It's like a beginning photography thing. We shot it all here in New Zealand, where I live. And then we also just released a drone tutorial where I teach you how to fly quadcopters, how to take photos, how to make videos, how to edit videos. And that's kind of aimed at total beginners also.
Yeah, a drone
That's
is
a
a
good idea.
great tool to have in your tool belt as a photographer. You can just get so many interesting angles and compositions.
Yeah, Trey does a lot of fantastic drone
I
work too.
saw that. Trey, also, aren't you giving something away today to our viewers down in the comments?
We are. Let's do a giveaway to your awesome viewers. We'll give away one of our new tutorials. Actually, we'll give away 5 of them. Let's do 5. And we'll just pick random people. You can leave a comment either in the live comments or in the YouTube comments. If you don't mind following my YouTube channel, that'd be nice too. Not a requirement. But we'll pick 5 random people in about a week. And we'll either set you up with a new tutorial or we'll make you one of our Stuck in Customs Passport members, which is like a monthly thing, and you get access to all of our tutorials.
Oh, that sounds cool.
Yeah, awesome. And definitely subscribe to Trey's YouTube channel. Here is an interesting take on a common location. I know it can be such a struggle to take a unique photo of a place like New York City, which has been photographed to death. What do you think about this? I think it's a diopter that they're using to kind of refocus part of the scene.
I think it's a good idea. You do see this place photographed all the time. In a little way, this is kind of a photograph that mostly appeals to other photographers.
Yeah,
because we kind of get it,
Yeah.
right? On a larger note, I'll say this one thing is that I find that photographers spend a lot of time trying to impress other photographers, which I think is very silly, right? That other photographers are not your audience. So a lot of times you have all this baggage in your head, like, how can I impress other photographers? And this is kind of one of these things. Like, it's very clever, it's nice. I'm not sure the general public would like it as much. They might see it as kind of tricky. And also, I guess you have to analyze your purposes for doing this. Is it going to be like a fine art print that's going to be like 10 feet across on a gallery wall? Is this the kind of print that would look good there? Or is it just kind of like a little fun idea, a little experiment?
Who do you shoot for? Do you just shoot for yourself, or do you have an audience in mind?
Oh, I only shoot for myself, really. Life is short, and I only do things that I find interesting. And I do share a lot of stuff online, and a lot of times people don't like my photos. I notice it. It doesn't bother me. It doesn't change what I post. Sometimes I think people just don't get it, or whatever. We do take about. We've taken 21 of my best shots and we sell them to art collectors around the world. We do big prints, like 8, 9, 10 feet across, and we only do 3 copies of each. Just three units, so that they're more collectible. So that's where we make a lot of our revenue, is selling into the fine art world. So in a way, they are kind of my audience, and I do think about like what is meaningful, what will make sense on big walls, what will like speak to people's hearts. And I think if I'm just like true to myself, and if I find it to be an interesting photo and have a certain kind of vibration or something about it, then it often speaks to other people as well. Although it takes a long time to find out what you like and what you think is interesting. I remember when I got started with photography, I didn't know what kind of photos I want to take. Like, I want to take flower photos or pet photos or photos of models or landscapes. And I tried all this stuff. It turns out I don't really like taking photos of models and situations. I don't really like taking photos of flowers or pets. I just kind of got into landscapes and cityscapes, but that takes many, many years to find out like what is that vibration all about that speaks to your heart.
Yeah, I agree with you. You have to find what you really love to shoot, and I think people can see your passion for what you're shooting. And that definitely comes across in your photos. When I look at them, I can tell, I see your journey in a lot of your photos, because I was looking at your travel photos, and they're different than every other travel photo you see. Like you were talking about getting those postage stamp photos, the Eiffel Tower at this angle or Yosemite at that angle, and I can tell that you're really exploring in your photos, and that makes the photo more exciting.
Oh, thank you.
Let's take a look at a couple more pictures. This one is from Armand. I think the colors here are just gorgeous, but oh man.
Fringing.
Yeah, I zoomed in and it just totally wrecked it for me. Though this is one of those things that would only bother another photographer, I think. I think any civilian who saw it would probably be immediately struck and not notice things like ghosting. What do you think, Trey?
I think it's a great photo. I'm with you on the colors. I think the colors are nice. The sad truth of it is nowadays only like 1% of 1% people even zoom into 100% on a photo. And so much of, the medium that we share this stuff on Facebook and Instagram, no one zooms in.
Yeah.
So it's fine. This tree, by the way, is about an hour away from my house. It's
that's close
really
to you.
Cool tree. It's in Wanaka here in New Zealand, and people love to take photos. And it's another one of those. Now it's so popular, it's such a popular tree.
Yeah.
That you go down there and you see 50 photographers like in a semicircle taking a photo of this tree. And that always bothers me a little bit, because I know like most of those people are there so they can take a photo and tell other people that they were there. They're not really there for themselves, So like so many people jump on social media or whatever because they need to let the world know that they're at this place. Like they need to be valuable to other people, because I think that's a sad thing. They're already valuable inside. They don't need to prove to people that they're at a place or that they're cool or they could do this stuff. And so I do find the whole Instagram situation is very confusing to me, because I find it to be very egoistic. And I think people put a lot of pressure on themselves to go to these places to collect. Now, I have no idea the motivations for this particular photo. I've also taken photos of that thing.
Yeah.
It's a great tree. And I think this should definitely be in that person's portfolio, because it's hard to get a good photo of that tree. And that's a very good one.
Yeah, it's a beautiful photo. We've seen quite a few pictures of this tree on this show, and this is one of the best for sure.
Okay. Congrats, Armand. For those just tuning in, we have TREY RATCLIFF live from New Zealand giving feedback on travel and landscape photos. You can submit your own photo at sdp.io/submit. Here's a mixed lighting exposure. It looks like they fired off a flash with a blue gel inside of a church and mixed in a nice shot of the Milky Way. What do you think, Trey?
It's a great photo. I think it's very smart. I like the blue lighting inside. It's cool. The only thing I don't like is that watermark. I'm always anti-watermark, because whenever
I'm with you.
Tony, I know you studied psychology in school, and I only took a few classes, but I notice whenever I see a watermark, I look at the fonts and I try to psychoanalyze the person that came up with the fonts and the signature and everything. I find myself thinking way too hard about their business and their branding and their name. That sort of thing.
I actually agree with you.
Watermarks. It takes me out of the photo.
Yeah, I agree with you. It takes me out of the photo, but I never put it into words before. But you're absolutely right. If the font seems dated, then it actually devalues the photo to me. Or like the font can look old, or the logo can look kind of old, and then it kind of brings everything down. You don't want your bad design to influence your good photography, right?
Hey, Samantha.
I don't find anything bad about that logo. It was a fine logo.
That one was fine, yeah.
At least it's not Comic Sans.
Well, you don't like Comic Sans? It's so fun.
Samantha, do you have any questions from the audience for Trey?
Are you with us, Samantha?
Yes, sorry. I have so many
I bet.
questions and comments.
I know people are pumped.
So let's see. The first one, Jim Setzer. This is a great question, I think. He says, Trey, you've embraced a number of trends, HDR, photographs, etc. in the past. What new trends do you see worth embracing today?
Good question.
Well, I would definitely start getting into 360-degree photography, because I know we're all creatures of what we're currently using, right? And so many people now use their phone and you just scroll through and look at Instagram, right? But this is not going to be the way people consume media in 5 years or 10 years. It's clear that everything will be using VR goggles or AR goggles, and the medium for that is not like a square photo or a rectangular photo or a portrait photo. It's going to be like much more immersive situations. So there are a few cool cameras coming out that do 360 stuff, and the idea is like finding, in a lot of ways, we're kind of cheating right now as photographers, because we can go into a big world, right? That's 360 degrees, and we can find a little square, a little rectangle that's interesting. That's a fun challenge as a photographer, to find like the most interesting rectangle in this giant 3D world that you have to be walking around.
Yeah.
It's a different thing to go find a place that's interesting all around you, right? Where there's like a cool scene going on, there's interesting people.
Yeah, that seems impossible.
Maybe there's a landscape. So that's a different mindset to create that kind of content, because as we all know, content is king. Like we all sit here and we go home at night, we watch Netflix under a blanket. Like we're consumed. There's always great content out there, but
Yeah.
content will no longer be inside of a little rectangle, right? That's a very like pre-2020 way to consume content. It's about to be completely different. And so I think it's good to start thinking about producing content that makes sense for in 2020 and beyond.
Yeah, I think you're making a great point that you have to look ahead to be ahead of the curve. Do you personally have a VR headset?
I do. I have a couple different ones, and we've been shooting more and more stuff in 360. I've got this cool Insta360 camera.
Yeah.
It's on the end of a stick. I don't see it here in front of me, but it's great. It makes 4K video. They're about to release a new one that makes 12K video.
Whoa.
Yeah, I've been looking at that one.
Yeah, and so I think that's, it's hard. It's hard to imagine how everything's going to change after the year 2020, but it clearly will. So, as a not that I have all the answers or anything, not that I know how to make great 360 content, but I'm starting to think about it because people will want this kind of stuff, and this old way, like people are not going to be doing this in 2025. They're not going to be
totally
moving on a phone. Maybe really old people will or something, but everyone else will be consuming content in a totally different way. So don't get, and it's just the beginning, by the way. I think a lot of people feel like, oh, it's too late. Everyone has these social media followings and Instagram's so big and I'm too late to the game. It doesn't matter. It's all going to change. There's plenty of time. Just go create awesome stuff, and the mediums will evolve with you.
Yeah, and it's fun too. My money personally is on 180 VR. Slightly different. It's 3D and only 180 degrees. So it actually does allow you to crop out some stuff. Just my own personal take. What do you think of Alex's?
VR makes me want to.
I mean, I agree, because I say 360, but really a lot of people are going to consume this stuff just sitting down, right? And they're not going to be turning.
Yeah, that's the thing I don't like about headsets, is trying to turn around to see stuff right behind me. Like, it's impossible. But 180, you can just like tilt your head and see everything.
People are too lazy. You think like turning your whole body, they're going to be like, this is too much.
Oh, never underestimate people's laziness.
What am I? Some kind of Trey's personal trainer?
Hey, Instagram TV doesn't even want you to have to turn your phone sideways. They're like, this is too much to ask of people. You've got to re-record everything vertically.
Sam, do you have any other questions?
I sure do. I do have a question from Jutta Karen Schultz. Just wanted a quick explanation on what exactly travel photography is. Like, there's a few people that said, like, specifically they tried to look online and they just really were hoping to get some clarification on exactly what travel photography is.
Do you have a take? What does travel photography mean to you, Trey?
What's it mean to you?
I think it just means anything outside of your hometown. I mean, I remember I used to live in Austin, Texas, and if I would just jump in the car and drive an hour out of town to some little Texas town, that's travel photography. I think just getting outside of your own little vortex, not just your physical vortex, but your mental vortex. As soon as you're in a new place, I think that your spider sense is kind of on high alert, right? And you notice tiny little changes. Maybe you go to like Japan or whatever, and you go to a fruit stand and the fruit looks a little bit different. You're like, oh, isn't that interesting? So you really start to notice tiny little differences. So I think step one is noticing little changes. And step two is taking photos of it, because like, I think when you take photos you can capture some kind of truth that you see there that makes sense to you. I think a lot of it goes back to, I think we spend most of the day being very confused, right? You're confused about, like, how do I respond to this email? How do I talk to this person about this thing? What should I have for lunch? Like, most of your day is just total confusion. And a few moments throughout the day, you have clarity and you see truth. And this is how it is with photography. Like, everything is chaotic around you all the time. And I think as a photographer, you kind of bring order to the chaos. And sometimes it's hard to really contain the chaos that's in your own physical vortex and your own mental vortex. And as you travel, you have sort of a freedom, and you see things through a different lens, so to speak. And you have a certain amount of clarity about truth. And so I think, like, travel photography is basically going outside of yourself and finding truths that add to yourself. And you capture those for yourself. You share them. Hopefully some of these truths make sense to other people who maybe aren't lucky enough or aren't traveling also, but you can bring them this truth and this consciousness that you happen to tap into, even for a momentary period.
Yeah, and I think as a photographer, when you travel even just to another town, like you were saying, it's so nice to leave your comfort zone. And I always find something happens to my creativity when I do that, where suddenly new ideas come to me and I'm seeing things in a new way. That's why I find travel photography inspiring. And Sam, for that question as well, if they're asking to ask which photos they should submit to the show, it's not like we know where you live. So taking what Trey just said, just submit something that makes us see a place in a new way. And we're going to be pretty lenient. We're not going to be like, you didn't travel, so don't worry about that.
Let's look at Alex's photo here, which has incredibly rich colors and nice smooth tonality. I like that there's a little person here to give me some focal point, but at the same time, I'm not sure if that's a distraction that should be removed.
I wish I could see their whole body.
Yeah. What do you think, Trey?
Thank you, Tani. By the way, I want to introduce Tani. This is Tani.
Hello, everyone.
Hey, Tani.
My awesome assistant. This is his last day.
Oh.
Where are you going?
He's leaving me to fly to the U.S. to be with the love of his life. So
Okay, there's no better reason to leave New Zealand, I guess.
But we have an opening, that means. We have an opening. So
Okay.
if you want to be my new assistant, let me know.
Okay, we'll be there soon. How long?
Yeah, I'll take the gig.
Taking the gig.
So as for this photo, I like it. I think it's great. I've always wanted to go to this. Is this Banff? Is that where that is?
I don't know where it is.
It looks like it.
I'm not sure. It's cool though. I think it's a fine photo. I have minor things to say about it. I agree with you. I don't like the people in there. I think I would just go ahead and get rid of them using content aware, because they're not. They and also it's such a distracting color. It's like opposite of the blue.
Real
And it
contrast.
just comes out. And there's another person down in the lower right that they could get rid of too.
Yeah, your eye goes right to those distractions, right? That's the very first thing I notice. And then I start to take in, oh, there's also mountains besides just that guy in the red coat.
Which makes me wonder what's wrong with me as a human if I see this scene, beautiful mountains, but right away I'm like, red jacket lady.
I think that's the way everybody's eye works. When
Yeah.
you're there, you
Yeah.
don't even notice those other people.
Hey,
What about?
one other thing on that last photo, and this
Yeah.
is a minor complaint, because I do think it's a really nice photo. And this is something that I try to do with my landscape photos, is I try to balance the right and left sides, so that when you have mountains or valleys that exit the frame at different heights, I find it to be a little bit unbalanced. So one trick you can do, and I do this a lot, it's easy with landscapes, is in Photoshop, you can use puppet warp. A lot of people use puppet warp to like change the way a ballet dancer's leg is or whatever. But you can use puppet warp on landscape photos really well. So you just kind of drop in little tacks and you can bend the mountains around and make them exit the frame at the same point, because you use puppet warp with certain things like rocks and mountains. You can really shape them in multiple ways, and people can't really tell. And not that I need to be able to justify anything photographically or artistically, because I think the use of artifice in your craft is noble. But when you're out there taking a photo, right, you choose a certain kind of lens that already warps reality in a certain way, right? This is obviously a wide angle lens, and that's more than you can see just if you're sitting there. You have to move your head around and piece together this patchwork quilt in your mind. And so in a lot of ways, when I use puppet warp to bend things around, it's almost like if I was there and I had like this super specialty lens that I was going to put on, and like the lens wasn't even smooth, but it had all these little bubbles and all this weird like optics and this weird refraction that bent things around. Like I could have done it in the lens if I had that kind of specialty lens, or I can do it later in Photoshop. The point at which you bend light is arbitrary to me.
Okay, I agree with that. I think that'd be fine to use puppet warp to balance this a little bit. I like that you're literally moving mountains to get a better photo.
We have yet to talk to a master photographer who is opposed to heavy editing. Literally 100% of the people we've talked to go for it. So, but at the same time, they always feel like they have to explain it, because there is some kind of snobbery around not doing stuff in post. And yet everybody who's successful seems to agree that it's the way to go.
It's okay.
I thought the lines from the clouds here, from the long exposure, 2,000 seconds, created a really kind of interesting effect, in that it is kind of radiating from the mountain and really drawing your eye there. What are your thoughts? How could this be improved?
I like it. I think it's a fine photo. I think it's a little heavy on the right. Again, you got this big old chunky tree on the right with nothing to balance it on the left.
Yeah, I don't know why he didn't move forward.
Yeah, moving forward would be a little bit better, I think. And then it's not quite like a super long exposure. I think I can see what he was going for. But if you're gonna do like a really long exposure, I like to see the stars stretched all the way across the sky, or have them be little perfect pinpricks. This is kind of like splitting the difference.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Okay, why don't we take another question from Sam, and I will pull up a portfolio that we can look at.
All right, let's see. First I'll give a nice comment to Trey. Rancorus says, seriously, I got into photography because of TREY RATCLIFF. So I'll give you those kudos there. You're inspiring people.
That's so nice.
This is an interesting question from Hector Zarlis. He says, do you think that adding things to a photo like stars or birds or anything like that takes away from what the photographer was looking at? So in a way, is that deceiving the viewer? And how do you feel about that? People who add like, I think that add like overlays and things like that is probably what they're getting at.
Yeah, but if you do a long exposure, like the human eye can't see that, and people don't consider that cheating. And when I look at the sky, I see more stars than when I see a photo. Anyway, Trey, I'll let you go ahead, Trey.
Yeah, I think that the premise of the question, I think, is wrong, in that deceiving the viewer as if that's immoral or something. I mean, you're an artist. You can do whatever the heck you want to do, and then you present it to them, and either they like it or they don't. A lot of people now, they don't really care if it's real or fake or ersatz or what's really the difference. I mean, these are themes that are explored in all the Philip K. Dick books. Like, what is the What is the difference between something that's real and not real? It's like Westworld. Is it a robot or a human? Does it matter? Like, you can do whatever the heck you want. But I will give this advice. I think you draw your own line as an artist. Like, what line will you cross? Which line will you not cross? And try to be consistent about that. Like, for example, I never swap out skies in my landscapes, right? I have beautiful sky, beautiful. You can always make an argument that there's a better sunset. And I'm really good at Photoshop. I could pop in a new sunset whenever I want, but I choose not to do that. I was with this really talented Russian photographer. We were hiking in Patagonia for a few weeks, and he was great. But one thing that he would always do is he would have these great photos, and then he would always put a big moon in it. He had this
the big moon, yeah.
He had this library with like 75 moons, right? And he would put a giant moon. I said, why do you always put a moon in your photos? He goes, it looks better with a moon. And I said, well, it's true. It does look better with a moon. But as soon as you choose to do that, right, it takes another mental process. Like, okay, I put a moon in the last 3 photos. Maybe I shouldn't put one in this one. And so it causes an extra thought cycle, right? That you get too much into the heads of your audience and you don't spend enough time like creating in your own mind. So just do whatever makes sense to you and be consistent with it.
Can I make another point that do it well? Because I don't think people mind if you replace the sky unless if the first thing you think when you look at it is, what's wrong with this photo? Is it real? I think that's when it bothers people. If you can't tell the difference, what is the difference? Yeah.
Let's take a look at Rob Allan's portfolio here. He's got a Squarespace portfolio. It's divided into 4 separate categories. Which of these categories move you, Chelsea?
Wildlife.
Wildlife. You do any wildlife photography, Trey?
Abandoned, just like me. What?
I do a little bit. We do a few workshops a year. We're planning one for Africa in 2019. And I actually love wildlife photography. This guy, anyone that does bird photography, they are very patient.
Yes.
That takes a lot of patience. So I admire anyone that takes bird photos.
Yeah, these are great.
Yeah, there's some adorable photos
I like
here.
this scrolling format too.
This is the template that I use on my own portfolio. I just changed it out.
He doesn't think he has too many photos. How do you feel about a number of photos in a portfolio, Trey? Do you think there's ever too many? Do you just put in as many as you like?
Well, if you go to my portfolio, I've got like 2,000 photos. I've got a lot. But I kind of rank them by I have my favorite 100, and then it gets a little bit more sketchy after that. But I love that you guys are talking about Squarespace, and I advise everyone to get a portfolio, even if you don't feel like you're like a real photographer, you're just starting. I think it's great because probably you're going to take thousands of photos in a year.
Yeah.
And it's a very important process to pick your favorite 10 or your favorite 50 and get them up there and keep swapping them out, and then revisit it every 6 months and see if you can swap out, one of your top 10 or one of your top 100. I think this is, it's important to have like a corpus of your work, because that will, just going through that process will help define what kind of photographer you are and what's meaningful for you. And it's actually, I think it's an important internal, like psychological process to go through.
Absolutely.
To continually pick out your best stuff. And I think it's important for yourself. I mean, not forget about photography. It's important for your life. I think as you start to create, like we're here on Earth to create and to share, and so I think this is it's a very noble thing and selfish in a way, but it's the good kind of selfishness that will bring peace to your life.
Yeah, and I actually just mostly use my portfolio for myself and do exactly what you're talking about. Before a trip or before a shoot, I often just look at it and try to inspire myself to outdo my last best photo. And that is why we tell people to get the 14-day free trial. You don't need a credit card. It's not like they're trying to trick you into forgetting to cancel. Just try it for 14 days. See what we're talking about. Pick your favorite 10 pictures ever. I think you might be surprised what they are, because you might find yourself saying, I need more wildlife. I thought I took more of those. Or, wow, I really didn't have as many travel photos as I thought. And I've been telling people that's my passion. It's a good way to see if you're actually doing what you think you are. You can go to squarespace.com/Tony and use the offer code portfolio if you decide to buy it and get 10% off.
Trey really crushed that Squarespace plug, man. It's not like we prepped him or anything The guy nailed it.
You said a lot of the stuff we say. We did not consult with him first. I'm glad we're sharing a lot of views, Trey, about many things.
No
Here's
problem.
a picture of Shanghai, and I think you've spent some time there. I like this one because it's an interesting perspective. It's not
different.
the usual skyline. What do you think?
I was literally just there a few weeks ago. There's these 3 giant buildings. I like this photo. The one I took, I feel like is a little boring. I feel like I should have I didn't have a wide enough angle lens. I wish I did. The only thing I don't like about this photo is the buildings are so awesome. And like the street light is kind of banal, right? It's not as interesting as the beautiful buildings. The crossing sign, I guess, is okay, but I think it's a fine photo. I think I like it better than mine.
Don't you hate that when somebody else goes to the same spot and they end up with a better photo? I mean, I hate it and I love it. It always gives me something to strive for. I can look at it and think, oh, I should have thought about looking straight up, or I should have spent some more time pondering, or maybe I should have waited for the fog or smog to roll in.
Sorry, go ahead, Chelsea. I apologize.
Oh, I was just going to say just some edits I would suggest. I think I would take out this here. It's just kind of blocking the building. I would simplify a little bit and maybe take out this element too.
Yeah, and remove those overlaps, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
what were you going to say? What were you going to say, Trey?
No, I was going to say the exact same thing. That security camera is harsh and mellow, and some of those other just things sticking around aren't so great.
Yeah, we got to just keep it simple.
Okay, speaking of simple, here's a picture from Sebastian, and right away, it's not quite symmetrical.
Uh-oh.
So, I have to fix that.
You triggered Tony.
What do you think? It's something we've seen before, the sort of pier going off into the fog, but I still think it's a timeless, simple composition. Yeah,
I like it. It's a pretty simple little study, I guess. One thing I do in these photos is those really high contrast areas, those big white spots. I would get rid of those because your eye always jumps to those. It seems inconsistent and almost like I know it's not trash, but it just seems like it's not.
Yeah, like that blob there.
You mean this here?
Right and left.
This little spot? Let me take it away.
Take it away.
Goodbye.
Nice shot, Misty. I'll import some pictures that we took during the live show. Maybe Sam has another question. Or you know what? I'm going to ask the question I know people are dying to ask. What gear do you shoot with, Trey?
Oh, my gosh.
I did get that question, and I was trying to
People have to know.
People got to know.
I shoot with a Sony A7R Mark III. I love it.
Camera.
I was a Hasselblad ambassador, which sounds important. It's not that important. And so they gave me like free cameras and free lenses, all that stuff. I get free cameras from everyone, and I'm very grateful, but it doesn't change my opinion. Anyway, I did like the Hasselblad, but honestly, I like the Sony better. I sent back the Hasselblad, and now I just use the Sony. It's better for my style of shooting, I think. I love the lenses for it. The new one is great. The battery lasts forever.
Yeah.
I pretty much only use 2 lenses. I only use the 24-105 G Master.
Yeah. And
the 16-35.
Yeah, those are both awesome lenses.
I also have a Leica, some Leica prime lenses that I use for people photos, but I'm a pretty simple creature, really.
Do you try to keep it very light when you travel, or do you bring a ton of gear?
No, I hardly bring anything. Just that camera body. I bring a backup body in my suitcase and just 3 or 4 lenses. Pretty simple. It's just a little. I don't get caught up. I'm not much of a gearhead at all. I have everything. I have my whole kit. If you go to kit.com/Trey Ratcliffe, I've got all my stuff listed out there.
Yeah, I'm the same. I'm not a big gear nerd, and I like to travel light. I mean, I used to bring a ton of stuff when I traveled, and then I feel like your back is killing you by the end, or you leave the big stuff at the hotel because you don't want to go hiking with it or something. So I found it just works out better to just bring what you need.
Yeah, which is bring me and
you bring your
put a backpack on Tony.
You put the backpack
with
on
all the
Tony,
gear in it.
And then it's easy.
Yeah.
That's why you can go to rentatony.com and you can get your Tony.
I can't have another job. What do you think about this kind of interesting color study from Viorel?
I
My
like
first
it.
take is
It's
maybe
nice.
too
It's like a little abstract idea. It's good.
Makes me want a popsicle, and that's a good thing. Too much.
Yeah, how do you know
saturation?
when you've gone too
How do
far?
you know when you've gone too far? I wouldn't go this far. Let's go back to it.
I don't think it's too much saturation, but I'm such a fan of color that my barometer might be a little bit off. One I will give a little bit of advice. I don't think that one's overdone, but I think if you're going to have saturated photos, it's good to have a few places that are not saturated, just to give the eye a little bit of a break. They did this scientific study, and they would watch people's pupils as they would move around a photo, and people's pupil, you don't really have any control over your eyes when you look at a photo, believe it or not. You think like, I'm going to direct my eyes where they're going to go, but really your eyes move by themselves, and you don't have any conscious control of it. And the very first thing your eyes always go to is the most saturated part of the photo. It's just instant. And your cones actually burn out after 3 or 4 seconds. And so your eye goes around and looks for a little bit of relief after it's fully saturated, so your cones can recharge. And if there's no desaturated parts of the photo, what happens is the eye just moves off the photo entirely.
Really?
I want to learn more about this.
You got to give those cones a break, people. That's what he's saying.
How can I find this study? I just personally want to know.
There's this guy named Matt Ridley. He's a TED speaker, and his wife, her name is Anna. I'll send you it's a scientific paper about it. She studies what happens with people's eyes when they look at things.
That sounds fascinating. What about the shot of looks like the New York City skyline back when they were doing the Twin Towers Memorial by Daniel Sullivan? The vertical composition, I know, is kind of hard to take in.
I think it's putting on my photographer hat. I think the reflection is probably definitely fake, but that's okay. If that's okay with them.
That was the first thing I tried to assess, because I've been there and I know there's a bunch of stuff in the water all the time, and it does look really weird, the ripples in it. But at the same time,
it's okay, though.
It is your photographer hat. If he were selling this as fine art, I don't think the average buyer would think about that. But every photographer is going to be like, I've been there. That's not the way the water actually looks.
Trey, do you feel...
I think, like you said, the general public, I think, will really like it. And so I don't think there's anything wrong with doing a little fake reflection action.
Do you feel that this photo gives your cones a break at any point?
Yeah, I think, having dark areas, like the inky black areas, is also a break for your eye. And so I like having dark, inky black. I think having black in your photo, these dark colors, it helps give other colors a better vibration.
I like
vibration. We're kind of like looking at the thumbnails and picking the pictures that catch our eye, because we have gotten hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, probably more than 1,000 submissions for you, Trey. So we're trying to filter it out. What catches your eye, Chels?
I'm just scrolling. This one
there's the
all color.
Actual New York City skyline.
Yeah, that's a cool photo too. I've always wanted to go to that spot. I never have been. That one's a little bit heavy on the right side too.
Yeah,
because it feels like it's trying to be a little symmetrical, but it's heavy on the right side. I don't have a good way to solve that problem. But
this is just a little cheating. That's not right, but we'll learn.
Nice shot, Lou.
Yeah, it's a good photo.
Okay. Let's see. Anything catching?
What about this one?
Okay.
There's a lot of detail in here. He's gone pretty wild with the clarity slider.
I need to zoom.
But
okay.
I think it's eye-catching. I think the reflection is beautiful. What do you think, Trey? Is this another fake reflection?
Yeah, I like it. I think it's nice. It's obviously HDR, which I'm a fan of. I think it's a nice photo. I like it. How
do you restore contrast to HDR photos, since the default settings will so often make you, like, look at the histogram here and you can see before Chelsea adjusted it, it just like all peaked in the middle with no highlights or shadows. How do you fix that?
Well, my answer is a little self-serving, although it is objectively true. We made our own HDR software with Skylum. It used to be called Mac Fun, and it's called Aurora HDR. Now it's Aurora HDR 2018. I think we've gone through 10 iterations. And So that's what I use. And actually last year it won from Apple. It won Mac's App of the Year. And I think it has over 2 million downloads.
Wow.
So it's really been going gangbusters. And that's all I use for my HDR photos. And I either put just one raw photo in, which seems to work fine most of the time, or I put 3 photos in. And it's got all kinds of sliders in there, like Lightroom, so you can do all of the contrast recovery you want to.
They have Windows software now too, right?
Yes, it's also for Windows.
Oh.
If you guys don't have it, let me know. I'll get you a free copy. I know a guy.
Really?
Oh, awesome.
Send it my way. I love sliders.
Let's see. Sam, do you have any other questions for Trey while I'm looking for the next
I have a couple
shot?
really good ones here. Let's see. One more quick comment from Donna Hetzel, who says, "I bought a beautiful photo from you of the War Eagle Bridge in the Ozarks of northwestern Arkansas. It's always going to be one of my favorites." So you've got some more fans in here. Mike McKenniso says, "How can you be original in places where thousands of photos are taken?"
Good question.
How to be original in a place where thousands of photos are taken. By the way, I saw the comments. Someone noticed my very nerdy shirt, the Higgs boson.
I wanted to ask about that too. What's the deal? Is it like one-handed typing system, or what is that?
Yeah, these are like all the quarks and everything that's inside of an atom. In fact, there's this movie you could watch called Particle Fever. I think it's on.
I think it's on Netflix.
Have you seen it, Justin?
Yeah, it's great.
Okay,
Justin,
Justin's seen it. He endorses
You wouldn't think
it
that
too.
a documentary about this, the CERN super collider finding the Higgs boson would be interesting at all, but it is a very good movie. Anyway, how do you be original in a situation like that? Well, there's a few things. Like I said earlier, you can go ahead and get the same photo that everyone else does, but think of it as practice. And just as a imitation being the nicest form of flattery. So you go and get that shot. And then I think that's the fun thing as a photographer, is try to find the new angle. One thing that I find is just get a quadcopter, because just getting 20 feet off the ground or 50 feet off the ground is a totally different perspective. And you can do so much with a quadcopter. It's one of the most exciting new forms of photography for me. Because, if you think about it, if you think about photography in a different way, like for 100 years, we've only been able to take stuff that's close to our head, right? Because you have your camera and your lens is close to your head. But in a way, that's a very arbitrary location for the camera and the lens. Now with a quadcopter, you actually have this huge dome, this 180-degree above the earth dome that extends out like 1 or 2 miles around you all the time. And so you can literally put your mind anywhere inside of this giant dome and get whatever composition you want to. Now that does take a big mental shift to think that, okay, I'm just not going to have the camera by my head. My camera can be anywhere. And so as you start to think about this more and more, the possibilities and the compositions just go haywire, and it's very exciting.
Yeah, we totally agree. We all love it, and it is an amazing way to see the world. And sometimes you can be 100 feet up and you'll realize, oh, I'm actually in a beautiful place. But you won't know it when you're on the ground. And actually, like my backyard, not that attractive, but 50 feet up in the air, pretty amazing spot.
Can't see those weeds from 50 feet up.
I just need to build a taller house. How about the shot from Ulrich, which seems to be on a frozen lake? I love the kind of placement of the sun. He was clearly very careful about the composition.
I like it. It's a really smart shot. I think it's interesting. And this is one interesting thing that I find about photos, is that you're not exactly sure what's going on. And I think this is a counterintuitive truth about photography, is that it's good to confuse information or confound information, or kind of, because now when I look at photos on my phone, I'm going through Instagram or whatever, I notice I only stop on the photos that I'm not sure exactly what's happening in the photo.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I think it's good to confuse people a little bit. Today's cameras are so good that you can make any scene very literal, and there's no mystery in it.
I feel like that's where, sorry to interrupt. Go ahead, Trey.
I like that composition better, what you just did.
I was going to say,
Thank
as a
you.
beginner, I think I was always trying to make things literal because when you first get your camera, you're like, nail the exposure. Does this look right? Does that look right? Is this how I see it? And then as you get more and more into photography, you're trying to abstract things a little bit, like you're talking about tricking the viewer a little bit.
I am just looking for the next eye-catching photo. Okay, well, that's definitely eye-catching. Let me see if I can. I feel like I need
Is
to
this
immediately adjust the
Disney?
exposure.
Where are we?
Oh, you're right. This is like Epcot or something, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it is Epcot. Yeah, I like it. I think it's a pretty photo. Yeah, nice.
Yeah, it was one of those where the thumbnail really struck me, and I think the thumbnail is a big part of modern photography. You got to make the thumbnail look good, but then you also have to reward people who go through the trouble of clicking on your thumbnail. And once I actually got into the thumbnail, I'm like, oh, okay, it feels like it's Epcot. There's the flower pot in the foreground kind of bugged me.
I'm
Took
just
me
keep
out of it a
going
little
back
bit.
to the thumbnail because these lines are actually quite nice, this leading line, if you look at the thumbnail. But yeah. Okay. All right, I see.
It's kind of a little distracting.
Oh, somebody sent an e-time.
Uh-oh. Someone's getting the cold shoulder. What do you think? Lacking color? Does it need to be... Would you add color to this photo, Trey? Or would you just go full black and white?
I guess I would just go full black and white. And I like to see a little bit more separation on the giraffe on the right. He's kind of overlapping the tree a little bit too much.
Yeah.
I mean, not that they have any choice. The giraffes are going to do what they're going to do. But, you know.
No, you got to believe in yourself, Trey.
Trey, photographer / giraffe wrangler. He is going to Africa soon. Oh, we have a full person wearing red. What do you think?
Yeah, I like it. It's kind of a fun little social media post, I guess.
Do you ever direct people in your landscape photos? Like, do you ever have a great scene and I need a focal point? Please go stand here. Because we see in a lot of your work, you do have people, and I don't know if they're accidentally there or if you've posed them.
Almost all the time, it's organic. I don't really know
Yeah.
how to pose people, and I know it's a very trendy thing now to put people in landscapes.
Yeah.
Especially yourself in a landscape. I've never really done that. If they happen to be in a landscape, then okay. I have this one photo that I like from White Sands National Park, and it's very empty there. There's like no one around, and you can't really get a sense of scale. And then there are these two ladies. They were friends. They were sitting on the sand, and I said, "Hey, do you two mind just going on a walk over there? Just naturally walk. You know, go do whatever you're gonna do." And so they just started walking around, and then I took the photo. And I thought it was much better having them in it. Although I didn't really direct them. I just said, just go on a walk. I'll send you the photo.
Walk. Yeah. Sometimes I do like having a person in the scene. Hey, Tony, I'm just realizing that we have to announce the winner. So usually every week,
right.
Trey, we pick our favorites and then we give people a prize. And last week's winner was Jacek. What was the theme again? Street photography. And so he's going to get a year of Adobe Photoshop and Lightroom, and he also gets a $20 gift certificate to our store, and that's our final winner. So next week we're going to be announcing the grand prize winner. We're going to take every winner from the past 13 weeks. Tony and I are going to go over your photos, and then the grand prize winner gets the entire Adobe suite for, is it a year?
I think we'll have a winner from this week too. But
Yeah.
yeah, next week we'll be announcing the grand prize winner, a year of the full Adobe suite, which is, it's worth a lot because it's actually really expensive.
There's a lot of stuff in the full Adobe suite.
Yeah. Premiere Pro and everything else. You want to wrap it up with one final question, Sam? What's the best last question you got?
What's the best question you ever
Oh
had, Sam?
man, best last
All
one.
the pressure's on you,
Please
Sam.
don't let
If this
Trey
question
down,
sucks,
Sam.
we're all going to be so disappointed.
Okay, Daniel Williams Castle wants to know, Trey, do you have any elusive, quote, unicorn photos, that a picture you've always wanted to make, but you've never found the perfect spot or managed to do it?
The bucket list.
Ooh. Trey.
Yes, there's this one area of China called Zhangjiajie, and it was kind of the inspiration for that movie Avatar.
Yeah.
Pandora. I think photographers may know this area. And I've been there 3 times, and I always wanted to get the shot like with the fog, and all these spires are shooting out of the fog. But it's really hard to get down there. It takes forever, and the odds of that happening are almost infinitesimal. So that's one shot I've always kind of wanted. And I don't know,
It makes me so sad to see Trey frustrated.
Yeah, let's go. We'll bring a fog machine. We'll go with you.
Yeah,
And we'll
I need
bring
to
the
fix
fog.
this right away. He shouldn't feel pain.
do
He's
this
Trey
for him.
Ratcliffe.
We can do it.
And then, nothing really. I'm just a pretty happy Zen person. I don't really get upset about anything, really. I just kind of, if things don't work out, I just kind of accept it. That seems to be, I guess if I was going to give any advice, that would be a good thing, is just to, like, never get frustrated. Just accept things as they are. Don't complain, right? I think we all know people in our lives that complain a lot because the world is not going the way they think it should go.
Yeah, that's
People
me at
aren't
the
doing
gym.
what they think are supposed to do. They don't just accept it. And I think that's just not good. I think, losers complain about the way the world is. Just, accept it and create and keep on going and, take care of people around you. That's all you have to do as a human and as a creative.
It's a good
Trey,
attitude. I feel like we're cut from the same cloth.
Yeah, I'm kind of wondering that. You guys might want to get some kind of DNA test done.
I kind of want to have some sort of chill off with Trey to see who's
Okay.
more chill.
Who has the most chill? Trey might win because I've seen you when your computer doesn't work.
That's true. That's one thing that gets me
It's the one thing.
when tech
Trey,
fails.
you've been such a great, inspiring guest. Is there any question you wish we had asked you? Is there anything else? Anything else you'd like to tell people?
Gosh, I don't know. I just announced we're gonna do a Burning Man photo walk. So if any of your audience is coming to Burning Man this year, we do one every year.
We really want to do that.
I just made the thing on our Facebook page. And we have a lot of cool new videos we're about to release. We finally have a really good video team and some good editors. So we're about to release a lot of fun, inspirational videos. I don't know if your audience is at all into this nonsensical Zen stuff that I talk about, but in case they are, we have a lot of these kind of videos coming out to help inspire people and give people some mind vitamins to help get their head right, because I think we're all in this together.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's good to be a well-rounded person too. Good photos are good, but feeling good is important too. Everyone, thank you so much for joining us. Your photos were amazing this week. So proud of you. Thank you, Squarespace, for making this show possible for all of us. If you want your free trial of Squarespace, go to squarespace.com and /Tony, and you can get 10% off if you use the coupon code portfolio. We'll see y'all next week on a Wednesday with Moose Peterson. He's a Nikon ambassador, a great wildlife photographer, and he'll be reviewing your photos.
Thanks, guys. And I think I just heard Chelsea
Sam.
say y'all.
No.
It's contagious.
The Texas
between me and
got
Trey,
me.
the two Texas boys.
The Texas boys.
Thank y'all.
That is all.
All right. That's a wrap.
Almost.